Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I hope you get to check out my good fiends at A Decade of Horror on the PSVG Podcast Network. I hope you love them like I do. They're a scream.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What's up, ghouls and ghosts? Welcome back to PSVG's A Decade of Horror, the horror movie podcast where we relive a time that was, one horror movie at a time. Donnie, Josh, Lucas, we are back again. Guys, I'm a little impressed. We are to year 2017. This show will release to the general public on Halloween, if the schedule follows well. And we haven't missed a show where all three of us weren't here. And that is something at this point in time in recording I would not have betted on. I would have betted against that bet. If you were like the over-under, the first 7 episodes is all three of you will be there every episode, I'd have been like, yeah, definitely not. Definitely take that bet.
This is the only podcast we actually all enjoy doing.
Wow. That said a lot in a very small amount of words.
Before we get into our normal stuff, considering that this is our Halloween episode, I thought it'd be a really great idea to talk about what you guys are planning on doing this holiday season. Josh, what are you doing for Halloween?
Halloween is canceled.
Cancel culture.
So nothing is happening. Halloween is canceled.
Is it really canceled?
Saturday. Oh yeah, and it's a Saturday, which means I'm not working, so I would be able to actually have my son participate in something. So I think we talked about what we're going to do. We're going to talk to my sister-in-law and invite my nephew over, who is a year younger than my son. Let them dress up. We'll do like pumpkin carving. And I figured we could do like a Easter egg hunt version of trick-or-treat candies in the kids' playroom. So they can still do something, but we're just, no one's going out trick-or-treating. So
I find this very interesting because we're totally doing trick-or-treating here.
It's not surprising to me. We're one of the few states with a controlled COVID number.
Yeah, as I say, I'm down here in Georgia country and Trump country in my neighborhood. Apparently on their Facebook and everything, they are all ready to go. They're like, we are totally
with our Halloween masks.
Trick-or-treating.
I think there's a way to do it. I don't think the general public can.
You have to sanitize each piece of candy before you get to eat it.
Okay, so you guys tell me what you guys think, because I'd be interested in hearing your shame on parents like myself. Our neighborhood is apparently going with the idea that we prepare grab bags. Yeah. So everybody prepares like little grab bags that maybe we put at like the end of the driveway, and people can just walk and take them. Yeah. But there's no like a socially distanced trick-or-treating, like away from the porch kind of trick-or-treating.
Yeah, no shame. There's definitely ways to do it. You just, I don't know. It's always
you're trusting a lot of different people.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have to still go to the supermarket to pick stuff up sometimes. It's not like you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
My kids, for example, well, if listeners are hearing this, my kids are not going trick-or-treating. I told them that I would buy them candy and they can stay here and they can dress up and but we are doing Halloween. Like you guys already know, I have my freaking tombstone right here. Like we're doing Halloween. I am so excited. I have a graveyard that I've bought this year. So we're going to doll up the front of the yard as a graveyard. I got more lights. I had lights last year, got more lights. Going to do that too. I've bought a projector and a movie screen.
Yes, you did.
To which I'm going to put on the driveway. So the question that I have to the Scream team here, what movie do I have looping in the driveway?
Oh, gosh.
It.
Monster House.
It. So I was thinking like old school, like The Birds or like Frankenstein or something like that. I was thinking like
super scary.
Yeah,
like something that would be
classic.
PG-13. Yeah.
Original Poltergeist.
That's good. It's not bad.
Nosferatu. It's a silent
Nosferatu.
movie.
It's not bad. That's not bad at all, actually.
I've actually seen Nosferatu.
So
I watched it for history. That's something to sit down and watch for sure. It's a undertaking because you want to talk about getting bored and leaving a movie. Like, it's not boring, but it's like you have to stay engaged.
What about the
with
new
it.
Blair Witch? Just the remake. Just
Yeah, someone to smash your projector.
It just looks like it's shaking constantly.
But yeah,
Like, what's
obviously,
wrong?
I can't put anything up there that's nudity or like guts or anything like that because there are kids out there walking
that's too
around.
bad.
So it's got to be somewhat
I
tame.
spit on your grave.
Spit on your grill. Oh no.
The 70s version.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna pull something out. Maybe something like Hitchcock and put that up on the
birds.
thing.
You could probably get one of those discs that has like the birds and
Oh, I have that disc.
basically all of it. Yeah, exactly.
got that
Just
disc.
know that.
Come on, Lucas.
Rear
Come on.
Window and
I've got the
Vertigo.
Monster Classics collection and all that.
there you go. So you have no shortage.
Donnie has that disc, and he's gonna pull it out.
Get the DVD changer out, 6 DVD spaces, fill it all up, set it to random.
So
Original Evil Dead.
ooh. See, I would,
Yeah.
and my wife would like crucify
Yeah.
me, but I would.
The
You'd be
cops will be at
that
your
house.
house.
I totally would be that house. Like that's in my
Those are-
head. That's what I was doing the first.
I don't want anybody to come here.
Like, so I wanted to put Chucky on, and my wife was like, Donnie, absolutely not. But like, so when I do Halloween, I'm going to do the same thing I did last year. So I've got lights that go under my porch. I got lights that go on top of my porch. I've got lights that go around the railings. I've got my tombstones that go in the yard with all the lights for those. And then I put Chucky on the porch, usually in a rocking chair. And one day I'm waiting for a way to make him rock automatically. Like that would be great. I want him to start rocking when people like walk up the stairs.
Gosh.
But yeah, so I was like, oh, it's totally in theme. We have Chucky on the projector. My wife was like, no, you can't do that.
You'd become the Chucky house. All the kids would be like, "That's the Chucky house."
I'm okay with that. That's
true.
self-prophesizing. Are you kidding me? Don't say that.
Like, I want that to happen. I'm trying.
I'll paint the house yellow. What about you, Lucas?
I think we've talked about it. We actually have gathered some costumes, so we know what we're going as. I say going in quotation marks. But from the sounds of it, it sounds like we're just going to hop in the car, go to the grandparents and things like that, and do trick-or-treating. It's going to be a lot of driving, I think, but at least we'll get out of the house, and it will kind of feel like we trick-or-treated, but we're not going to go down the street or anything like that. We're just going to and then we'll come back home and probably watch a movie or something like that, and try to, like you guys said, make some kind of night out of it, but it won't be the traditional kind of what he knows. He did. My son did it last year, so he kind of knows what he's missing at this point. So it'll be kind of a bummer to see how that goes. So.
Yeah, my kids are pretty bummed out. It's actually a big reason why when I reached out to you, and you guys already know this, I already told you this, but our listeners may not. It was actually a big reason why I kind of wanted to do the show. Because I figured when we first started doing this, when I brought you guys the idea, I was like, guys, we may not be trick-or-treating at all. So like, let's maybe make an event out of this podcast. Like people
feel like you did something for this Halloween.
Yeah,
this
and
year.
It kind of does feel that way. Like I've been watching horror movies for weeks now, so I feel like I'm in the Halloween spirit. So even if the trick-or-treating night doesn't go as well, I feel like I've been celebrating the whole time.
It's already bled over into my game playing by this point.
Nice.
I've started horror games now. So,
ooh. Which ones?
Right now I have the Evil Within 2 that I actually started and kept playing. But I've also been meaning to go back to Alien Isolation because that's another one of my favorite.
I got to do
movies.
that one. I've still never done that one.
So good.
Yeah, PT, man. Gotta get it.
I don't get to have that one.
Josh, why don't
Hi.
you kick us off 2017?
Hey, 2017, it's a rough year. Okay.
It's like the movie credits at the start of every movie that you just want to skip through, but you can't. You're just like, I know.
We'll get through this. We'll get through this quickly. It's not super long. It is bad though. Okay, so the day after Trump is inaugurated, the women's marches happen globally. Kind of says something about this year to come. North Korea. What did I write here? North Korea gets missile-y. The Nintendo Switch is released. Can you believe that? It's
Yeah.
like 3 years old.
Wow.
Breath of the
Time
Wild,
for a new
man.
one.
Another blizzard hits the East Coast, dumping 3 feet of snow. Fun. Brexit negotiations start. We all know how that's going to turn out. I wrote lots of political nonsense. This is a really bad year. Comey, Manafort, all this nonsense in the White House.
Thankfully, it got better since then.
Yeah, it's like you don't even hear about it in the news anymore.
That's what I'm telling you, man. The Purge election year. It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't say it in the last episode. I should have. It's like when I watched that movie, I was like, this is just off the wall. Like, this is ridiculous. And you watch it now and you're like, oh my God.
That's how it's going to go down.
That's going to happen.
It's not as crazy as it seems.
Yeah, it's just depressing. Let's get through this depressing stuff.
Okay.
More depression. There is the bombing at the Ariana Grande concert.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. The U.S. backs out of the Paris Climate Agreement, never to be seen again. We experience a total solar eclipse
Of the heart.
Nice, Lucas. Hurricane Harvey wreaks havoc on.
By the way, I
Houston.
think that showed up on the video portion of the show.
Yeah, that's funny.
Boy, I sure hope so.
You have to edit that because I'm gonna GIF it and screen cap it. And I'm gonna mail it to your house with your wife's name, Mrs. Rose. Okay, back to serious stuff. The Las Vegas attack happens.
You gotta stop laughing. Can't laugh. No,
I know.
Can't laugh.
Yeah, one man destroys the lives of hundreds. Russia gets caught cheating in the Olympics.
Oh yeah. Does any of this surprise anybody?
No, not at all.
No, it's just like no.
No. For some reason, the United States decides to butt into the Jerusalem-Israel problem.
Oh.
So that was kind of a big thing.
We can figure it out. It's only been going on.
We're just going to come in. We're going to tell you the right answer to your 1,000-year war.
Yeah.
And then we leave. all set.
You guys got it, right?
You guys got it from here. Disney buys Fox.
Yeah.
Let's get to the deaths. Are you ready?
Oh God, let's get to the deaths.
Death time.
Mary Tyler Moore, Bill Paxton, Aaron Hernandez, Chris Cornell, Roger Moore, Greg Allman, George Romero, Hugh Hefner, and Tom Petty. All pass.
I think I didn't realize that Hugh Hefner was dead.
Oh, he's been dead for 3 years.
Right. I mean, I know that you said that to me now, but like, I don't think that I'm pretty sure I knew when it happened, but like, it's escaped me since then. Like, you just said it, and I was like, really? Like,
he passed. His son took over Playboy. They removed nudity from Playboy,
and
then a year
basically
later,
like tanked.
And it was print back.
Great idea.
Chris Cornell was tough to swallow for me. Like, I am a huge Chris Cornell fan, and that one hit me for a few days. So that one definitely stings out of all those. I think I remember that one probably the most.
That one was tough, and Tom Petty was a tough one too.
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement started in
why couldn't he have died?
Wonder Woman is released in theaters. Stranger Things season 2 is released on Halloween of that year.
Very good.
The Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Maybe I put Stranger Things up on the projector.
Yeah, you could do that. That's definitely something more family friendly.
Okay.
You could do that.
Until the Demogorgon shows up.
You got like 9 episodes before
Yeah,
that.
that works.
You've got like 3 days before you.
And it's iconic. People will catch their attention. They'll know what it is.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, the Patriots win the Super Bowl. I'm going to say it again.
Like everything.
It feels so
Yeah.
weird.
Okay. I thought that just happened.
Talk about people cheating.
The Astros win the World Series. The Penguins win
Again,
the
talk
Stanley Cup.
about people cheating.
Yep.
There's like a theme that keeps going with all of this.
The Penguins won again. That's the back-to-back again.
Penguins win the Cup. The Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship. Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
That's after. Hang on a second. This is the year they got Kevin Durant, and this is like when it basically was just not fair.
Oh yeah.
Like the best team in the NBA signed the best player in the NBA outright, and they became like a super team for the ages.
Super team.
That's pretty much every NBA team now, right? One team has all the players.
No, and actually, so you think that, but like the Heat got beat.
Get started on basketball.
Well, I'm just saying, like the Heat got beat. The Celtics lost, right? It hasn't been that way since the Bulls, and even the Bulls had significant challenge. When the Warriors got Kevin Durant, it was over. Like, there was nobody that could get within like 5 games of them. Like, they were crushing people. It was unfair. It was insane. But smart on them. Smart on them. They work the cap correctly. Good on them.
Cool. Yeah, that you caught me out of my element. You caught me. I'm so uncomfortable. The last time I watched a basketball game, Larry Bird was playing.
I think I know more about basketball than I do basketball.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi is tops on the box office with $620 million, and The Shape of You is number 1 in the Billboard charts.
What is that?
The club
Ed
is the
Sheeran.
best place to find a lover.
He's in love with The Shape of You, Donnie.
Yeah.
I'm really
I
out of
think
touch
you
with
would-
music.
I think you would know it if you heard it because I am too. I just listen to my one Spotify list that never.
I don't
gets
even
any
have
music.
I just have my own play library, which is like pre-2000.
It's one of those songs that if you walked through the mall for 5 minutes, you'd probably end up hearing it just in passing. You might, if you don't know the song, you wouldn't know that you heard it. But
Right.
yeah, it's played all the time.
Gotcha.
Cool. Look at that. 2017.
Well, it wasn't
So
as
like-
bad as you. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as other years.
I mean,
Yeah.
no comment.
Josh is looking at his list. He's like, it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Bad because it was short, but everything on there was pretty bad. Didn't
That's
feel
true.
like there was much good stuff.
Yeah, that's
Sorry
true.
about volume,
We need
but-
like goodnewstopics.com or something. Josh, you've got to find positive.
good.
Like at this
Yeah.
point, like I don't think you can. Like anybody
Good
that's listened to
news.
this so far, like they're here for this. They're
Not
into
coming.
it. They're wanting Josh to double down. Like get worse. Like get real detailed. with it.
I left out a lot from this year, actually, because I was like, I can't put all of this in here.
Lucas, how was the
Yes.
box office?
Pretty good actually. Really picking up, especially when it comes to a specific movie and the amount of money made.
Oh, I'm sure.
Possibly unprecedented. Number 3 though, Annabelle Creation.
Ooh,
When number 3 is making $102 million at the box office, that's pretty good. 62 Metascore. So still,
Pretty
shooting
good.
for yeah.
for a horror movie, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, can't complain. Number 2, Get Out. $176 million, which kind of surprises me. I don't feel like there was a lot of buzz before the movie, maybe.
Really? I would
Yeah, I mean,
completely
other than-
disagree with that statement. Like
Okay,
you
maybe-
said something and I was like, that is fundamentally false.
Maybe I just didn't realize there were so many Jordan Peele fans, but like I didn't hear much about it until after it came out, and so
Okay.
maybe I'm got my head in the dirt on this one. 85 Metacritic score. But
It's
number
really good
1,
for a horror movie.
yeah, that's like
Best ever.
classic. Nothing have ever been that good. Number 1, just making boatloads of money. It $327.5 million, just ridiculous. 69 nice Metascore. So there you have it.
It chapter 1, number 4 on my list,
Wow,
but not my
wow.
top 3. Not my
Number
top 3.
7 for me.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
We alluded to it in our last episode. So if you're just picking up here in 2017, we've already talked at length of how many movies we had for both these years and how we went about doing our picks. And I did the same thing. I had a couple movies that I thought were, the top of my favorites. And then I started rewatching some to kind of appropriate my list here. And my number 3 movie for 2017 is Split from M. Night Shyamalan,
My
starring
number 4.
Joanna Taylor. I really like it. It is, let's see here. I wrote down a lot of notes for this one too. So typically when I write down a lot of notes for movies, I think that I'm usually really into them. Like when I really start like going through thoughts. So here's what I've got. A person with dissociative disorder abducts 3 girls. Sees a therapist, although there remains one that he has a bunch of different personalities with one submerged. They call the Beast. Did you guys know, fun fact, that James McAvoy's character was originally intended to be played by Joaquin Phoenix?
Oh.
And if you've
You might
seen,
have liked that better.
if you've seen Joker, like I think a lot of people, like you could sign up for something like that. Personally, I think this is interesting. You said that, Lucas. I think James McAvoy crushes this movie.
Yeah,
I
he kills
love it. He absolutely kills it.
Yeah, he does. No, definitely. It's not like he isn't the reason.
He
why
really sells all of these different personalities extremely well. The change in tone and voice and inflection in voice and everything. And I mean, I guess that's just good acting. And it's weird because you don't get a whole lot of attempts to see people do it. It's usually movie to movie, not scene to scene.
Yeah.
But I've seen plenty of actors movie to movie that can't pull it off. Like there have definitely been some movies where I've seen amazing actors, Leo, Tom Hanks, pull off accents that I'm just like, just stop. Like this is not working well. And I never felt that way with McAvoy in this movie at all. I thought he killed it. So anyway, this plays into the I should have wrote it down. I didn't. What's the trilogy? The Glass trilogy, right?
Glass
Yeah.
And
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Yeah.
The Unbreakable trilogy. No, I guess it's the Glass trilogy, kind of.
Isn't that what we would call it? And it's got,
Well, I was gonna say by Glass, they really were like, this is all, coming together because
Yes.
you see all of them on the poster and everything.
And they tied this to that at the end of this movie, so it actually has like a bigger thing in it. I don't necessarily. It's like the first horror movie cinematic universe, because like by this time you have The Conjuring going on, but Unbreakable happened in like 2002. So,
Like,
it was a
that
long
works out
time.
good, yeah.
right, yeah. So they kind of retconned it. Right? Like they retconned like a cinematic universe.
He's like, wait, I didn't put a twist in this one. What do I do?
The twist is there's 2 more movies.
Again, as I said in 2016, Joanna Taylor's amazing, and I think in this movie she's equally as amazing. I love her and everything she does. Just that's it. So that's why I'm actually excited to see the New Mutants. I know everybody else isn't.
I'm excited to see it.
I feel like the world isn't. Like everybody wants the movie to go away, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited.
It's not really bad, but I'm excited to see it.
Right. Because I love her and everything she does. I think it's a really cool movie. I love the premise. The premise is really good. It is horrifying when he changes character and like walks in the room at times. And the first time when the girls are peeking through the keyhole and they hear the woman's voice and they're talking back and forth, and you're like, oh my god, there's somebody here, they're gonna get saved. And he comes storming in, full dress and makeup, and he starts comforting them. That's terrifying. That's a terrifying scene. You're like, oh my, this dude is off the reservation. And he has this therapist that he goes and sees throughout the movie. I think those are the most chilling parts of the movie, because it is this like dance of wits where she suspects that something's wrong because of his behavior, but she has to deal with his personalities. And in the dialogue and in the story of the movie, they talk about like how his many different personalities protect him. And like you can see her trying to break down those walls, and it's this cat and mouse game where they're going back and forth. And that to me, I thought was terrifying. Like I think there's actually a case to be made that maybe this isn't a horror movie. I definitely think it is. By the end, it definitely becomes this, this hunted thriller. And I know some people might be set off by the supernatural superhero, I guess, element of it. There is this whole thing of you have to really suspend belief in that this, personality disorder could let people physically alter their own biology, I guess, is the biggest leap that this movie takes. But the movie goes along.
Like 10% of the film.
Yeah, as I say, but they and you're right. It's brief, but they also like go a long way to like lay that foundation. So I never felt that it was cheap. Like if it just happened, I'd be like, that's stupid. But it doesn't. Like they really foreshadow and build this thing all the way leading up to it. And I just think it was really entertaining. It was a very good thriller, and like I said, extremely well acted. And I really liked it. I think M. Night Shyamalan's a legend, and I think this movie is really, really good. So number 3.
Part where he asks her if he can kiss her, and he's like, I think I might have got you pregnant.
Or when she realizes that the window is just a picture.
Yeah,
and she's trying to manipulate the boy, and like it's scary. So it's good. It's good, and in the M. Night Shyamalan way, right? We talked about The Visit, and The Visit's not. Well, it's completely different. This is very much like in the vein of like The Village and Signs and stuff like that. It has the reveal. The movie kind of changes. It's very M. Night Shyamalan by numbers, but doesn't make it any less effective. I enjoyed it, at least.
Yeah.
Well, did this make any of your guys' lists?
My number 4.
Okay, cool.
I kind of forgot about this one. I have seen it though, and I will say it's not often you get to be in the head or at least see sort of the mindset of the killer, or not the killer, but the bad guy, I guess you will. And so it becomes kind of one of those things that you keep watching the movie for, because you're just like, dude, this guy is screwed up. But you don't often get that side right away. It's told to you later or by somebody else. So it definitely has. Now, for me, it wasn't.
It's kind of
that
Silence
big
of
of a
the
deal.
Lambs ish.
Yeah,
that way,
and that you get that psychology from the person or about the person. For me, I had not seen Unbroken, and so like I don't know, there wasn't really that much to me. Like I watched this.
So when you get the reveal of
after it
Willis
came
at the
out.
end and everything, you're like, what?
Yeah, I'm just
I
like,
gotcha.
what? Okay.
I gotcha.
So I had come in kind of knowing what already happened a little bit, and then I was like, well, I better catch up and like watch this movie and see what the fuss is about. So maybe the effect had been lessened for me by that point.
Cool. What about you, Lucas?
For me, my number 3, a very controversial pick. Now, I do want to preface that I alluded to in 2016 that my list was kind of hard for 2017 because I just felt like there were a lot of elements shifting around. I just couldn't make any decisions, and they all kind of felt like top 5 movies that could just go anywhere. So it was really tough to put everything in an order. So I kind of waited till the last minute to see what would settle for me. And it even kind of changed a little bit here and there up until our recording. That said, number 3 for me is The Void. So for all you listeners, it's been a month for you, or no, a week. What's the release?
A week.
Sorry, it's a week. Okay, so it's been a week, but you may not remember that we had a little controversy about this movie, about when it was released, and I think I know where Josh stands on this movie. But this, I believe this was a Flex to Post pick.
I said watch it play.
Play it for Faluba. Netflixation, yeah. So for me, this came out of complete left field. Like we just pick these movies based on the covers. We go through, pick 2, and then one of them gets selected. And so I had no idea what this was going to be. It was a blind watch, and I was completely enamored by the reminiscence of 80s movie horror by this film. At first it was a little bit like, okay, obviously lower budget, it's a little bit kitschy, but the acting is much better than I was expecting. So like my bar was already. Yeah, exactly. It's like The Thing. It's got a lot of 80s movie vibes, It obviously isn't a big blockbuster movie, and I appreciated that. So right away, I'm getting into, and then of course you've got the music, which is a bit synthy at times as well. But then you start getting into the story about this cop who finds this guy and brings him to a hospital. And then there's this story that's happening at the hospital, and you kind of are unfolding these layers about what's going on. And you have all these different characters who are at the hospital or work at the hospital. And things start getting a little bit wonky, as it were. And there's these weird people in robes, or what you assume are people in robes with triangles on their faces. And everything kind of gets out of hand pretty quickly. And then you're just sort of swept away on this crazy ride of monsters and weird people turning into stuff, and this nurse who's stabbing a dude with scissors and whatnot. And it just gets out of hand really quickly. It's quite gruesome, pretty unsettling, especially when you start seeing some of these monsters and creations that thankfully are, is makeup and puppetry and such, and not CG, because I can only imagine what it would look like if it was CG. But you get that real visceral feeling out of something that was made with actual components, and you can tell that this disgusting blob monster with these tendrils coming out of it is really filling in that space, which I think in a horror movie especially is important a lot of the time. I know that some things are impossible to achieve with special effects. But when you get that special effects makeup and props and everything, it really helps sell a lot of the movie. And I think that's kind of where this movie shines, is in the fact that it might not be the best at how it looks, how it was filmed, even though at times it actually is quite a well filmed movie. You know, there's a lot of scenes where you're shown areas and there's symmetry and there's interesting camera movements, and the way that scenes are set up, you can tell that it was thought out. But overall, the reason why it's my number 3 is because I like this movie for what it represents. And it's a send up of other 80s movies that came before it. It does things well. And like I said, the acting definitely helps carry it, but it by no means is, you know, the best movie that's on my list. It gets that bump because I did watch it recently. I actually bought this movie. That's how much I do like it. But I can recognize that it's getting a bump from me because I appreciate it for what it is.
Because you like it. It's your favorite movie.
Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, The Void. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a fun little ride. So just don't overthink it. And the ending for a second, I think I had a problem with. Like, everything up to that point, there's a point where we go into the special world, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of how you talk about a story. And it's kind of like, okay, you could have chopped the movie right there. But having watched it second time through, and knowing that that's where it was going, I kind of became okay with it. So I'll give it a pass, I suppose.
Nice. Number 5 for me. I was kidding about it wouldn't make the top 10.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. I was like, oh no. I started rethinking everything I thought I knew about horror movies. I was like, oh, my list is terrible.
I really like it. It's definitely a classic 80s movie made in the 2000s.
Yes.
My number 3 is The Girl with All the Gifts.
Good.
Yeah.
Good pick.
That's on my
list. Which is essentially the closest thing you'll get to a Last of Us movie.
Apocalypse Dad.
Yeah. So The Girl with All the Gifts essentially tells the story of, well, I mean, you don't really know too much right away. It's just a young black girl who lives in a cell, essentially. There's this weird daily routine where she has to strap herself into a wheelchair, and she goes to class. Gemma Arterton, one of my favorite actresses, plays the teacher in this, who has like, I don't know, like she has feelings and no one else does. I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
Essentially, what the plot is there's, at least in this community, and you would assume the world in different places, there were children who, it's a zombie movie, I should say that. There were children who were fetuses at the time of the infection, and these children are like half breeds. They're half zombie, half human. And the gory story is they basically ate themselves out of their parents' wombs, and then they were discovered by the military in this case. And, you know, they didn't necessarily want to just murder children, but they also found out that these children do have this zombie bloodlust, but it's not always active. It's only if they get a scent of you. And they have developed this, what do you want to call it? Hand sanitizer that you rub on your bodies, and it makes you, they can't smell you, right? They can't scent you. So what happens is, you find out, Glenn Close is in this, by the way, which is like, shocking that she's in this like independent film.
Yeah.
She
plays like indie horror movie.
Yeah. She plays this doctor who we find out eventually, that she is taking a kid maybe a day or every other day or whatever, that is infected, and is experimenting on them, trying to develop a cure. But in doing so, she is lobotomizing and killing the children that she is doing this on. She finally gets to the main character, who's a very smart young girl. And, you know, Gemma Arterton's character figures out what's happening and tries to intervene. And then like the movie kind of like branches out from there. Some of the things I really enjoyed about it is how they handled the zombies. Again, it's not a traditional zombie style film, so these zombies like reserve their energy.
Yeah.
So they like end up on a city, and you just see them. They're just standing still. Some of them are rocking slowly, but they literally will not move until they sense food. And that plays a big part of the film. And also another big part of the film is where you see that the zombies aren't the final form. If you're a Dragon Ball Z person, they actually evolve another step where once a zombie body is like, they don't move to preserve energy, but if they're like sitting down or adjacent to maybe a tree or something or other zombies, they actually like mold up and create these spores that once these pods release, they send the virus through the air, essentially meaning that everyone will become a zombie at some point. So they handle it more on the biological level than maybe the supernatural level. While definitely it is like rooted in supernatural with the zombies, but
it's a zombie movie.
You
were spot on. It's very Last of Us. Like a lot of the premise is paralleled, similar overlaps with premises from The Last of Us.
Yeah, it's very well acted. The young girl is a very good actress.
Yep.
There's a really funny part in the movie where she has to go out because she can walk through the infected people, and she sees a cat and just like devours it because she still has to eat. Like she still has these cravings. And then they get back and they're walking through like a vet clinic, and she sees a poster of a cat. And Jim Rodgers like, "Oh, did you want a cat? Did you want a kitty?" She's like, "I already had one."
Right.
She's "Oh, okay, moving on." I really enjoy it. I think it's like one of those sleeper films. It definitely hits my number 3 contentiously. There's definitely other films that I think could have all been my number 3, but I really just have like this kind of like fondness for this movie where it's just very, if it's my type of horror movie, right? Like we talked about this last episode, like it's in like
it's very touching
film I like. Yeah, it has a lot of heart.
It's honest, yeah, it has a lot of heart to it. It's very sympathetic, and it's more about, it's probably a movie more about human empathy than horror itself. It just kind of has a horror backdrop, like The Walking Dead, kind of. Yeah. It's very good. I agree with you. I love the girl's mask. That's very Hannibal Lecter.
It is very cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, like it's a great mask. Great mask. Good pick. Definitely on my list. I'm trying to be with I know that we're probably going to talk a lot about my number 1 movie. I also know that I want to spend a lot of time on movies that didn't make my top 3. So I'm trying to get there at least out of my own faster. My number 2 is Annabelle Creation by David Sandberg from Lights Out and Shazam, starring Lulu Wilson, who I mentioned last episode from Ouija, Evil Origin. Lulu Wilson's great, little girl actor for horror movies. Like she does the little girl horror movie stuff. This year was a little tough for me because I absolutely think there's one horror movie that was my favorite, best out of the year. Everything else kind of falls in the B category where I could grab a handful of these for a lot of different reasons. I could make a pitch for a lot of these different movies. Annabelle Creation, I think, might be the best movie in the Conjuring universe if I was being critical and trying to, like, not just out of my favorites. If I was just trying to be critical of the movie, I think it's really, really good. It basically retcons and corrects everything they tried to do with Annabelle. We talked about Annabelle. Annabelle's a disaster. It's awful. Don't watch it. Annabelle Creation is very, very good. It's very, very tropey. It's very generic horror by numbers, but it's good. It's good at doing that. And as I've talked about before, I like that. I like possession. I like jump scares and stuff like that. If you don't, or if you're looking for, a whodunit or a higher level of thinking, this isn't your movie, right? But if you like scary dolls and haunted people and strange things happening, then go bump in the night. Like, this movie's for you. Unlike The Conjuring 2, which I told you, like, had some moments that took me out of it, this movie never goes that far. It never gets silly. I think all the hauntings are, like, in line. This is more poltergeisty and demonic, and there's bone crunching stuff that happens, and there's a girl in a wheelchair that's haunted, and that's always scary because nobody can, like, what are you going to do if you can't run away, right? That's terrifying.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like themes like this. Little creepy girls running around in the middle of the night, that's scary. There's a dude who's a doll maker, that's scary. There's a shed full of doll parts, that's scary. There's all these scary things that happen. The thing that I took away from this movie, and I did watch it yesterday, I rewatched it just to confirm where I felt on it, because it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like routine? It's like routine scary movie, right? I don't want to call it generic because that's lessening, I think, what it is. Traditional. It's traditional scary movie. The scares, though, the creepiness effect that Annabelle has, top notch, really good scares. Not the scary ones, not like the boom moments, like the subtle scares are fantastic. Like when she teleports from view, and there's this one where the girl walks in this room that Annabelle is locked into. Have you guys seen it? I feel like every time I bring up one of these movies, you guys have never seen it. Yeah, no, never. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to spoil it a bit. The movie starts off with a doll maker and his wife sitting, changing a tire at the road. They have a little girl named Annabelle. He goes to do the tire, and a nut falls off into the road. Annabelle goes, "I'll get it," and a truck hits her. That's how the movie starts. Okay? Annabelle's spirit possesses the doll, but it's not Annabelle. It's a demonic thing, but they think it's Annabelle. So they have it until they realize it goes bad. They lock it away, right? They just lock it away. Annabelle attacks her mom. They lock it away. So they put it in this room that they have glued like Bible pages to. It's like a closet. It's completely surrounded by Bible pages. That's scary, right? If you walked into a room and it was wallpapered in the Bible, you'd be scared. Like, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
They lock this doll in the room. All right. So little girl breaks in the room. Annabelle's not in the closet. She's in a rocking chair. Right. Rocking chair starts moving. Little girl's like scared. Little girl runs out. She's not supposed to be in the room. So she hears somebody coming. She runs out of the room. The guy walks up the stairs. She thinks she's been caught. Turns around. Door's closed. You never heard the door close. It's that type of stuff. That's the type of stuff that I love that this movie does. And it does it a ton. There's a lot of it. And then at the end, it's totally poltergeist. Fucking light, like the house starts lighting up. All kinds of rumble and shaking. It's the haunted house. Like I said, traditional. You're going to get a lot of the things that you've seen in other movies. But I think it does it really, really well. And again, I like Annabelle. I have a Chucky doll. I want an Annabelle doll. My wife is freaking out that I want an Annabelle doll. But I really do. I want an Annabelle doll because I think it's a creepy looking doll. Like, it's really, really good design. So I like this movie, and I think it's a good scare. So that was number 2 for me.
Nice. That's me right now.
Yep.
That's you. You're Annabelle.
All right. Bye. Hi, I'm Annabelle. I'm spooky. Number 2. So this was the movie that I talked to you guys a little bit about that I was kind of waffling about whether or not to put it on my list because it may be the lightest of the lights horror movies, if you can even call it horror. But there are aspects of it, and I think when you think about it, it does lean towards that genre a bit, and that movie is called Super Dark Times.
I've never seen this movie.
I have never even heard of this movie. It was on a list when I was looking at things. It is on Netflix for anybody who wants to check it out.
Ooh.
Can't wait to look it up and see that it came out in 2016.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
I hate you.
Now you sound more like my wife.
Aw. So this movie, so I watched this and sometimes I'm like, well, I'll start a movie and then I'll finish it tomorrow, get like halfway through and just time permitting. That's how I have to do it sometimes. Nah, this one I had to stick around for the whole thing.
Ooh, it's good.
If you're into this type of movie. Now let me set the scene for you.
Hang on a second.
This is, sure.
It made $33,000 at the box office.
Whoa, I'm surprised it even had a box office release.
I only interrupted you because I was like, that's really low.
That's rough. That's probably like 2 days of shooting right there. So this film is about a group of kids that, I say kids, teenagers, that are the nerdy. They're the nerdy guys. And when I say nerdy guys, I don't mean like they're cool kids who play nerdy guys or nerdy kids. They're actually like straight up real nerds, like nerds that you would see and be like, oh yeah, those are the nerd kids that go to the school. I'm not saying anything negative about that. It's just they fit that bill.
Lucas trying to be so politically correct.
Well, I'm thinking more of like in It, where it's like the Losers Club, and it's like, come on, you kids,
Those
y'all
are
look like
kids quite cool.
Yeah, exactly. So you have these kind of nerdy kids, and it takes place in the 90s. You see definite hints of that. Most people don't have a cell phone. PlayStation is what some of the kids are playing, that type of thing. So it has this kind of 90s vibe going on, but it's not really ever, doesn't really ever come up that much. It just kind of happens to be set then. So these kids all like to hang out, and there's this one kid who kind of takes things a little bit too far. He's the bigger kid. He's kind of obnoxious. His sense of humor grates on people sometimes, but whatever. They all get along because they're kind of all in the same situation. They decide to hang out one day, and one of the kids says that his brother is gone. He was enlisted in the Navy or something, and they should go hang out in his room because his room is cool. And of course they go in there and it's all posters of chicks, and he's got drugs in it hidden in his bookcase or something like that. So the obnoxious kid finds it and he's like, hey, can I have this? And it's like a bag of weed, and it's like a huge bag of weed too. It's not like a little bit. He's like, can I just have this? And so he's
It's like $8,000.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, no, dude, my brother will know if that's gone. Like, put it back.
Is it bad that you said how much weed there was and I assigned a monetary value to it?
I mean, you might not be wrong. I don't know the going prices for weed or anything, but all I know is dime bag. Maybe it's a dime bag. It's probably not $8,000 if it's a dime bag.
It's not.
It's not. Yeah. Come on, Lucas. You know better than that, right? Are you being serious?
I do know better than that.
Okay.
But let's just say I've never had to buy my own, so I've been
Okay.
I feel lucky in that sense.
I'm like, I felt the need to educate you for a moment. I'm like, wait a second.
No. It was
Because that
little...
could go real bad one day if somebody gave you a dime bag and told you it was $8,000. Like,
$8,000,
I don't want to
please.
send you out there like that, Lucas.
If I could ever buy anything that was $8,000, I think I'd just be happy to be in that situation. So they get all in a kerfluffle about this weed that he won't put back, and so they change venues and go out to some field because his friend brings out a katana, to continue the nerd vibe. He's like, hey, I want to see something cool, check this out. Psh, katana. So they take it out in the field to do what
Josh is shaking his head. He's like, yeah, people do. What?
Yeah, it's
What kids are walking around with swords?
Gun that you found in the closet. This is what you do out in the country or / suburbs or whatever.
The city.
No, it's not.
The middle of the city. So they take this sword out and they're going to go chop stuff because obviously. So they're chopping fruit and being Fruit Ninja before it was
cool.
Even a thing. Yeah. And so this obnoxious kid breaks out the weed that he apparently stole without this kid knowing. They get in this big fight and he ends up accidentally stabbing the kid with the sword. And all the friends freak out because they're like, what the hell are we going to do? We just killed somebody. Well, you just killed somebody. So they decide to hide the body. And then the rest of the movie, like that's the first 20 or 30 minutes. The rest of the movie is how are they going to deal with the fact that people are starting to realize this kid's missing. And like during that whole process, the main character starts to think that maybe it wasn't an accident. It was just kind of set up to look like an accident. And then another kid has gone missing, somebody that they interacted with at a party. And then there's this girl that he likes and he thinks that this other kid's moving in on his territory. And so it does a really good job of kind of setting you up to not really be sure about how much of this is just him being this guy being a jealous person over his friend and this friend interacting with his girl, and how much of it is actually true. So part of it is kind of a mystery, like, or what we're suspecting true. Is this kid really capable of killing somebody with a sword? And so throughout the rest of the movie, you're kind of led into this psychological mind bender about whether or not this kid is actually capable of murder, which is his best friend, by the way. So it's kind of, he struggles with that. You don't want to assume your best friend is capable of killing people and then continuing to lure other people into death traps or whatever. But there's also the weight of having killed somebody weighing on this kid as well. And so he gets like visions or dreams of these horrible things that he sees because he's so wrapped up tight about like what happened and worrying about getting found out. It's really easy to care for these characters. Like, it's easy to see a little bit of myself in these characters as well. So, that might be part of it too, but
Josh
all
too.
of it. Yeah, apparently. I mean, he's out there with the katana stabbing people, allegedly.
No people, just watermelons.
Oh, that's good. Had a lot of watermelon that day. But it's presented in a very believable way, in a very, I don't want to say gritty, but just a very realistic way that you could kind of see actually happening. And it all kind of comes together in a final climax of all of these ideas coming together. And then you find out sort of what happens, and it all ends in a way that is satisfactory, fulfilling, I guess. And at the end of it, I was just like, wow, like I was completely engrossed in this movie, this sort of dark, it gets violent towards the end movie that came out of left field. Like, I'd never heard anybody talk about this movie. And again, it's not super horrific. Like, it doesn't even really get into slasher territory, but
that's disappointing. I mean, if you pull out a katana.
Well, let's just say it does get used. It's just
I'm messing with you, Lucas. The two things about this are the katana and then your depiction of a giant bag of weed. Like, I can't get over that every time you put up your hand to visualize how much weed these kids had. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, are they dealing? Like, jeez, that is a giant bag of weed. That's a lot of money, man.
A Glad trash bag full of weed.
It was like the Johnny Depp movie.
Fear and Loathing.
Sorry, I'm gonna put this on my list. I've never heard of this movie, and I'm captivated anytime somebody hits me with a movie I've never heard of. So
think of it more of a murder mystery or something of that
my
nature,
wife will like
and
it.
less of a have you seen the movie Brick?
Yes.
Or know of the movie Brick?
Yes.
Kind of like that, but without the noir feeling.
Okay.
So yeah, came out of left field. Fairly realistic depiction of.
That's impressive.
Those
I got
types of events.
25 movies on my list here, and you go number 2. That's very impressive.
I'm really good at number 2s, so
that'll
Congratulations.
never get old on this.
Brought it right back.
7
down.
episodes in, we're still doing this,
Back
guys.
in the toilet.
Everybody poops, man.
Josh?
Hi, I'm back with another. I don't want to make another poop joke, so I won't, because I did last episode.
Josh is like, well, Donnie, you ruined it.
My number 2 was my number 1 until last week.
Ooh, it's always fun.
Ago. 2 weeks ago. So
Big upset.
I'm sorry if I shake things up like I have been by picking my number 2 as people's number 1s or whatnots.
Shake and bake.
My number 2 is Get Out.
My number 1.
And there's still Get Out is scary, and like both of my 1 and 2 are not traditional horror films, right?
Sure.
So Get Out obviously doesn't hit that. Like, I think that's what made it so special. One, it's coming from Jordan Peele, right? No one expected this to come from him, which adds to the specialness of the movie. But 2,
nobody knew it was coming out, so
yeah, it's just it has so much truth in it, and that's not. I wouldn't say it's the scariest part, but it definitely
You want to
is
like
right up there.
I have 4 paragraphs that I wrote for notes. I watched this movie today. I knew it was my number one. I wanted to save it until we really got close to talking about it.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, I wanted to feel prepared to speak on it. I didn't want to like misrepresent any of the movie's themes or anything. I will say this: I didn't investigate that part of it. I normally never do, and I didn't.
Sure.
Like I didn't go and try to find what other people thought about the movie, because I think a lot of the appeal of this movie is that's so personal, and I wouldn't want to misrepresent that. But if I can fill in the gaps here with some stuff,
Please do. Yeah.
here's what I wrote today. Starring Daniel Kaluuya, Black Panther, Sicario, Bradley Whitford, Cabin in the Woods, Stephen Root, Office Space, Dodgeball, News Radio, King of the Hills. A tremendous, folks acting. There's more people I didn't even list.
Captain Keeter.
One of the most critically acclaimed films of the decade, definitely amongst horror movies. One of the most critically acclaimed horror movies of all time. So much of this movie has been exponentially, echoed because it hits a cultural chord in America. And I think it's more important now than it was even at the time. And at the time it came out and what people thought were troubling times. And that's saying something because I don't know about you, but like in my head, I'm like, these are definitely like troubling times. Like it feels like it's just getting worse. Mm-hmm. And that's why this movie is so important. And I put that there's a lot of nods to slavery in our nation's history, in the home with the home servants, the maid, the landscaper, Walter. I'm not sure what he's doing. He's like a handyman, landscaper. I'm not exactly sure what he does. For a groundskeeper, it's a better term. Obviously, they're auctioning off these bodies, to people, and they have like a whole auctioning scene, which is very,
unsettling.
It's extremely unsettling. 2 things that I think that, if I may, and I'm not typically the deep thinker of the bunch, but I felt very good about these things that I wrote. So I put Get Out's horror is quiet. It's spreading. It's like the Body Snatchers or the Faculty or the Stepford Wives. It's not too far from what we see in zombie movies, where the fear is that the people are the real threat, except that these people are not just acting out of paranoia for what's going on. They're acting more out of peer pressure and social norms and societal norms, and that's scary. Because it shows humanity's history with running with a popular choice or conformity versus doing the correct thing. Where the correct, these types of things have led to the oppression of people, such as women, black people, religious things like that, right? That makes sense. Mm-hmm. I also wrote that it's very delicate with how it showcases racism. It's not dumb. It's not blatant. There's no tooth-bearing redneck with a flag. It's not that dumb. Yeah. It treats it with respect. There's no stereotypes that are being made. And I actually love how he takes, I think, a heavy-handed shot at sometimes the way people can be racist without thinking that they are. And I think it's very on the nose with how he does that. It's not necessarily taking shots at people that say that they wear racism, people that say they don't like black people or anything like that. There's a whole family that are like, I've voted for Barack Obama 3 times, It's just that type of stuff. It's these little racist digs that these people do. It's smug in how unattached it is from like how we would properly treat somebody if in fact we saw people as equals. But people don't see each other as equals, which is why these little things happen. And I think that's truth. And I think that's the part that hit the chord with people so much more. It's either people wanting to reverberate that or show it to that, or people may even being awakened to seeing that type of stuff for the first time, but that's real. The horror part of it, though, I did want to, just to get outside of the societal stuff, is I wrote down the movie throughout lays this hypnosis groundwork, right? You stir the drink, you clink the drink. But even outside of that, they have the sunken place, where they have like these TV commercials, and it's very Stepford. If you guys have seen Stepford or like the Faculty, it's very like that. It's basically taking over these people's free will, making them robotic in a sense. And here's the thing about this movie: for as amazing as it is culturally, it's actually not all that uncommon or new. This is a premise in horror movies that's been around since like the 50s. It's been done several times, but never done with like I think a racial tone. It's been done with an inequality tone, but never quite like a racial tone. And I think it's cool that with the hypnosis and like the stuff that we see on TV, the way that I perceive it anyway is kind of like how we can get used to these things as being normal through like media, through television, through repetitive nature. And that's actually kind of like the real scary part, is that you can unknowingly find yourself in the sunken place without, realizing that you're there. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that makes sense. But me writing down notes as I was watching today for the third time I watched it, that was basically me trying to bring something extra to this show tonight about this movie. But outside of all that, I think the acting and the creepiness, like the creepiness of all the actors and the little things that they do. Oh my God, the actual turn, the reveal when he's trying to leave and the family starts circling him and showing up, and the girl's like, I can't give you the keys.
Yeah,
like,
I can't give you the keys.
That's like, you're like, oh shit. When you knew that he was in hot water way before.
Yeah,
that.
he knew.
Yeah.
It's just like, he doesn't believe it yet. He's just like, come on. You can see it on his face.
Yeah, you just lose hope. And that's exactly, he just loses hope. He's like, shit.
Yeah, and there goes my last thread.
The ending is spectacular and I think adds a bit of levity to what was otherwise a very hard-hitting message. And I appreciate it.
I had heard when this movie was in theaters, there was a different ending that got changed.
The actual police show up.
Yeah, and it was very kind of a downer, like a downturn.
I didn't see this movie in theaters.
I didn't either, and I never saw that ending. I'm sure you can YouTube it by now, but I'm the same way, because when you see the ending, it even plays on your conceptions of what has happened in the movie so far.
Yeah.
And so you're expecting one thing, and we're all familiar, I hope, with the police and how, I mean, by now you have to be familiar with what struggles and difficulties we've all have been seeing in that aspect of life. And so
that was, I think, that movement, it's always been a thing, right? Like, people have known this has been a thing for 30, 40 years. But this movie, I think, was at the forefront of it really becoming like a popular mainstream initiative of the people, I guess, if you say. And it only got furthermore by, Kaepernick taking the knee and all the other things, the events that have happened since then. In a lot of ways, like, this theme feels old in 2017 because so much has happened in this, theme since then, like in real world events. And to be honest with you, I gotta give credit to Get Out for maybe spreading some awareness that maybe wasn't there before.
Sure.
May have had a part to play.
Well, I mean, because there's been movies that have dealt with racial racism and stuff like that, but usually what kind of movie you're going to get when you watch a movie like that. It's some sort of drama, deals with those issues and brings that to light. But you don't often get it in horror unless it's some sort of symbolic type deal. But it's not always it's typically not the crux of the movie. You know what I mean? It's not like the storyline.
Well, I mean, in this movie, you've got the white people want to take over the black people because of their strength and their athletic prowess, or I think one person even mentions like being cool, and it's like this whole appropriation of culture. And this movie is so smart, and Jordan Peele has become a horror rock star since this movie came out. Us was huge, and everybody can't wait for Candyman, and for good. Like, it's extremely smart. This movie is so, like, even if you get it, like, there's still a lot to get. Like, it's so deep. It's dense with tons of things that are, I think, like, I think it's smart, at least. The writing feels incredibly smart in all of the little things, that it's not just racism is bad. Like, if that's your takeaway, you're missing out so much of this damn movie. There's a lot there. So I was really impressed, and to be quite honest, like I said, it's one of the most critically acclaimed horror movies of all time, and it may be hard to not talk about it. It might be tough to talk about for some, but like it's extremely important.
That original ending was in when they were screening it. It didn't hit the theaters; it just hit test audiences.
Oh, okay.
And he gets arrested and he goes to jail for life for it. So And I believe there's a point when he's in jail, I think, if I remember it correctly, where he's like, I don't want to get out of here. I'm happy here.
Wow.
Like he's like
Oh,
resigned
wow.
to feeling safe.
I understand that. It's almost a fitting ending for the
It was
message.
they said it was too
that it's-
depressing, and but I think it kind of does speak to to what people feel, at least in the black community. Like from what I read and hear, I would never try to speak for that. That like even when you do the best, you still are the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The that's what really would happen ending.
yeah, that
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
yeah, to a degree. Yes.
I do think the
that's my
movie
number
gets
two.
the message across without the ending. Like without the
yeah,
ending,
for
like
sure.
I really appreciated the ending that I watched because of the message and the journey of the movie so far. Like that ending would have been more fitting for what the message is, but I appreciate they didn't just keep going.
I was gonna say there's a reason it stops where it is, because the message ends there. The rest of it is just the cleanup or whatever.
And
we don't
you
get to see
also
that.
have the impression of that's where it's going, so you get that feeling even without it.
Yeah.
Like there's that feeling when the police car comes up and you see the lights, you're like, oh shit.
No. Yeah. You
Right.
know exactly. You should know exactly what to expect.
Yeah. So
and then
even
you
without
realize,
it being there, I think most people are watching this movie in 2017 or 2020. Everybody's expecting the same thing. So he gets the point across without having to paint it out for everybody.
Yep. I don't know. I don't think I said this, but this is my number one as well. So
There I go.
there you go.
I knew we were going to talk
Look at
about it.
you.
So that's why I wanted to get through my other movies, because, man, I've got 5 or 6 other movies I still want to talk about. This is a good year.
So I got to get my number one out then, huh?
Don't rush.
Please do. Oh, I mean, don't rush.
Don't rush. Sharknado 5, Global Swarming.
There it is.
Um,
I think that's like the third time you made that joke so far.
hey, there's 8 more
I
movies.
was gonna say there's so many to choose from.
So this definitely could suffer from some recency bias. However, I never in my life have seen a movie like this movie.
I would agree with it.
And it is horrific in a different sense of what we talk about traditionally in horror movies, which is why I think it's more of a trend in these later years. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is a movie that I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I started it. Nothing about this movie is traditional cinema, normal.
No, not at all.
In fact, the movie, I haven't seen any of Yorgos Lanthimos' other movies, but
Really?
I
Not The
hear that
Lobster?
they're similar. I haven't seen The Lobster.
Okay.
Right away, like this movie, it's incredibly artistic, right? I should say that just in general. It's a very artistically stylized.
One of the things
film.
that I wanted to bring up I expected you would pick this movie is it's very much an A24 movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love A24.
And that's why I wanted to bring that up. Like if you guys aren't paying attention to like publishers and things like that, like they definitely have a feel for horror movies. And The Lodge and Midsummer and The Lighthouse and Hereditary and The Witch and all these things, like they have a thing. And this is very much the thing.
When I saw that title card, I felt reassured, honestly, like right away. Like how I used to feel about Legendary Pictures back in the day.
Yeah.
Like when I see that title card, I'm confident.
I'll watch anything that A24 does or Blumhouse. Either one of them.
Yes.
If it has those cards, I'm there.
I found a Blumhouse stinker, but otherwise, yes. So this movie, it stars Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, and Barry Keoghan, who I don't know if he's done anything else that I know him from. He was in Dunkirk, but I haven't seen that.
That's good.
He's in the Eternals and he's in the Batman, which I like. That's good. And he's in the Green Knight, which everyone's been waiting for, right? Which is supposed to be really good. So this movie starts off with people having conversations as if there was no emotion in the world, and I was really curious if that was if we were in a alternate universe or something, because Colin Farrell literally has a conversation with him and they evoke no emotion, and everyone he has a conversation with, it's very like,
Cold.
Clinical.
how are you?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like to do this. They say like weird shit like I would like to strangle a hooker, but they say it like regular.
They talk about a dude's watch, and he's like, I very much like that watch. I like the way that it looks. Like it feels like they don't like the watch because of the way that they're saying it. But
That's
yeah,
strange.
I have an answer. I might have an answer for that. I read a little bit after watching this movie because I had a very positive feeling after watching it. And I wanted to know more about it. And apparently the director feels like there's no reason to make a movie that sounds realistic.
Okay.
Like most of his movies are odd like that because
That is
he
a hell of
doesn't-
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a hell of a director thing to say. And I'm
Yeah.
putting air quotes. That film's
That's my
very
purpose.
artisty to say. What a
Yeah.
smug thing to say.
It's true. It's true. And I've watched some of his other films and they're all kind of awkward like that, but it has something to do with like getting the awkwardness of dialogue out of the way and just going like straight to the point. And then
Yeah.
letting the rest of the film speak to it for itself or something like that. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing because it's been a while since I've seen and looked at the stuff.
I think it actually builds a strength to the film that you didn't even know that you need, because as that language breaks down, it breaks down simultaneously with what's happening in the story.
I would agree
So
with
all of a
that.
sudden, Colin Farrell, he's not this cardiothoracic surgeon who just speaks plainly to his family. He's losing his mind and he's acting out and he's throwing temper tantrums, and he's totally the opposite of how you're introduced to him, which I think it just really works for the movie. It's another one of those very uncomfortable, unsettling films, and it doesn't turn horror for a bit.
It's
Yeah.
extremely uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. He's very much, clinical is a good word. He's very much in control and logical and, reasoned. And he gets put in a situation where he loses control, and you see him react the way a person that's always in control who loses control would react. Like, he's losing control of the situation, so he loses control of himself.
It's just yeah. So to give people an idea of the story, basically, so Colin Farrell, he plays the surgeon. You introduced him speaking with a boy. He kind of befriends after you find out later that the boy's father died in surgery under Colin Farrell's care. Colin Farrell blames the anesthesiologist because only anesthesiologists make mistakes, not him. So he says that.
Yeah.
So this boy befriends him, and then eventually befriends his family and his daughter, and his son, and it comes to the point where he starts becoming like stalker-ish, and it's becoming even more incredibly unsettling.
Sinister.
And finally, he just says, "Hey, you know what? Like, Colin Farrell's angry. He's like, you got to leave me alone, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Well, I guess we just have to do this now. Rip off the Band-Aid. This is what I have. You have to pick one." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You have to pick one to die." And it just like hits everyone. It hits you watching it. It hits Colin Farrell. It even hits the kid who's telling him this. And he's like, "You have to pick one, or they're going to get sick, and they're all going to die." And they have these conversations, like he's going to the kid's school, he's talking to the principal, and he's like, "Which one do you think is smarter?" And he's like, "I can't say that." Like, you see him like debating which child to let die. And this happens because his son stops being able to walk.
Yep.
He uses his legs, and then his daughter, and then like everything he's telling him comes, and you don't ever
Their
really
eyes
know.
start to bleed.
And they bleed from the eyes, and he tells them like the third step is they bleed from the eyes, and then they die. And it's just, I don't even really want to tell people who may not have seen this how this thing just goes, because it's an experience. It's not just a movie. I felt so uncomfortable, and also I loved everything that I was watching while I was watching it. And Alicia Silverstone's really they underutilize her, but she has a little part in it, and she's really good. But all of the actors, Nicole Kidman is great.
Yeah, as I say, Nicole Kidman, man,
She crushes it in this movie, and Colin Farrell too. Like every acting scene is top notch acting.
I was able to find what I was referencing earlier, so if you'll indulge me really quick. The director doesn't strive for realism because he doesn't believe it exists in cinema. After all, the film world is manufactured and to be experimented with. So that's what I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
And then as far as the whole, because I had questions about it too, and like, why is it so weird? The characters live in an altered world where karma is part of their existence. So in this film, like karma always happens.
Oh, okay.
Basically,
so the eye
that's
for an
kinda
eye
like
thing plays out.
What happened.
Yes, so that explains sort of the magical qualities of things that are happening.
That helps because that was a big. Okay, Josh, this is the most uncomfortable movie I've ever watched. It is. That's the only word you can really call it. Like, it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And look, it's great. Like, I give it credit for doing exactly what it does, but there's so much that it doesn't do that it, like, I don't know, it breaks my mind. Like, it's not the suspension of disbelief, it's the not knowing. Like, how?
Right.
How was the boy doing these things is never addressed. And it's like, what the hell? Like, you have to, that's the horrific part, I guess. It's like, how is he, and you're just to assume that he, you know what, he just can. And it's like, well, what does that mean?
That's what led me to search more about it, because I'm like, how is this happening?
And like, what if he just, like, what if you kill him? Like, you know, like, does it keep happening? Is it tied? I don't know. It's all of that. It's the lack of dots to be connected that, again, and it's similar to like a suspension of disbelief, but just feels like a big leap because it's so supernatural. This kid just spoke it into his existence that, you know, there was like no spell cast or anything. He's like, look, all of your family are going to lose the ability to walk. They're going to bleed from the eyes. Like, you're all going to die slowly until you kill somebody. And it's just like, that's scary. I love the fact that the parents, I don't want to say take it realistically, because to be honest with you, if you were like, hey, if somebody in your family doesn't die, you're all going to die, I'd shoot myself. like it feels like a very easy ask. If it was as the movie portrays it, like, it's totally going to happen. You know,
he had to live through it. That was his punishment.
Oh, it's
like one of the three.
It's.
I think it speaks to his character that he never even considered killing himself.
That's true too.
It does, and I like that about it.
Wow.
Because it's very like selfish and conniving, kind of in a way. And it's interesting to paint people like that. It just, I came away from the movie like completely creeped out. So it's a great job. So 100% I agree with your pick, Josh. It's a great pick. But I'm just like, there's so much I want to know that I don't know, and that pisses me off.
And I had considered that as part of like me like picking the film, but with the whole film, the film as a whole, I think I was able to forgive that part and maybe just chop it up to me not understanding how he could do it. Maybe it was through poison, maybe it was through mind control. I don't know, but like I kind of let that go. But it definitely did bug me, like after watching it.
It's just never addressed ever.
Yeah, so I definitely get that criticism as well. But that being said, like, I'm super happy to let Get Out be number one.
And the boy, by the way, completely creepy, terrifying little kid. Like, he does his little thing. It's so nonchalant. And
he's so calm and cool through the whole thing. And he's like, you killed my dad. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, and it honestly comes out of like a place of fairness.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the most telling part, was his calm, cool, collective nature of himself.
Yep. Under any duress, you know?
Even when that stuff's happening.
Yep.
This was my number 4, by the way. I think it suffered from the fact that I haven't watched it in a while, because I do remember liking it a lot, but it's such a hard movie to discuss, you know.
If my wife was on the podcast, it surely would have been her number one too. Josh and my wife are parallels, man. They are horror movie fans. They sit together and just have a bunch of great movies.
Nice.
We did that. We have to get to your not make the list, Donnie. You have a lot though.
I do.
Yeah.
I do have.
I have a few as well.
I have a lot. I won't spend a ton of time on many, but I have to spend some time on at least two. The Cult of Chucky. The second best Chucky movie ever.
Whoa.
A direct sequel to The Curse of Chucky in 2013, I think. Curse of Chucky was cool because it grounded Chucky in an otherwise ungrounded. It's been off the rails for a while. Curse of Chucky grounds it. Cult of Chucky takes it to a new place, and you've got to watch them both. I think you'll miss it if you don't. Like, you got to watch them both. Cult of Chucky, I would say, is more like Josh's Chucky. It's really, really cool. Okay, so it stars Brad Dourif, who does the voice of Chucky. Stars his daughter, is Nika, who was in the Curse of Chucky. She's back, Fiona. And it's Don Mancini, who's been the movie's creator since the beginning. And Jennifer Tilly's back, and so is Alex Vincent. Alex Vincent was the original Andy from the 80s, Andy Barclay. Okay, so the last film, Nika basically turns out to be like Chucky's daughter before he got put into a doll. He got a woman pregnant. He tried to kill her. It didn't work, but she lost the use of her legs, right? It's like this whole haunted house thing. Chucky kills everybody. It's very grounded in a haunted house thing. She goes off to a mental asylum. Okay. This movie takes place in the mental asylum. Nika has been charged for all the murders that happen, and she's in this mental asylum, and she's meeting with a doctor. And the entire focus is her meeting with a doctor, to the point it becomes more psychological thriller than slasher. She thinks this is all in her head. Maybe she did kill all these people. Like, she's freaking out. She's like, oh my God, I'm realizing this. She's not. Chucky's real. Chucky comes back. I'm going to spoil the movie because it's from 2017 and I just want to talk about it. And to be honest with you, me spoiling the movie is kind of hoping to tempt maybe you guys or somebody out there listening to give it a chance. I know a lot of people have probably written off Chucky. This movie unveils that Chucky has learned a new spell, into which he can clone his existence into other dolls. So there are multiple Chuckies running around, and they all kind of have their own different little personality and shit. And it's totally funny and kind of creepy and cool. And then he totally inhabits a person. Like, the thing that has been the whole thing the whole time, he does it. And that's how Jennifer Tilly comes back into the play. And it all kind of like has this big, unveiling. And to be honest with you, it kind of sets the stage for a movie that we've yet to get that seems kind of freaking awesome. Like, at the end, Jennifer Tilly and Nika are going away, like Thelma Louise, like they're in a car, they're driving off. Chucky inhabits Nika. So Nika is Chucky, and Jennifer Tilly is, Jennifer, and and they love each other. So they're like a couple together again, but they're not. It's kind of psychological, and it's kind of nuts. And if you're not paying attention to it, there's definitely a lot happening that it will make no sense. You'll be like, why are there 3 Chuckies? How is she possessed? Like, you got to pay attention. But I think it's the second best movie in the series, and I really liked it. It's not, I don't think it's great, which is why I didn't make my top 3. But I think it's good for what it was trying to do, and I appreciated that as a fan. Savageland is a movie that I've brought up to you guys on a couple of occasions. Savageland would be disheartening to spoil for anybody else. I'm going to. But if you don't want it to be spoiled, like, skip ahead by a minute. 'Cause here's the thing about Savageland for you horror movie fans. If you have a significant other or a kid or something, not a kid, not little kids, but a teenager. If there's somebody out there that doesn't like horror movies, let them watch this, but don't tell them what it is. Because this movie is presented to you like it's a documentary. And legit, my wife thought it was real for about halfway through it.
Oh man.
And it's basically a zombie movie. Like, there's this whole town just gets murdered by like this plague, whatever. And it's all shot like found footage stuff, but it presents itself like a documentary, like it's real. and it totally had my wife believing it. like towards the end, she kept looking at me. She was like, "There's no way this happened. Like I would have heard about this," and I just wouldn't say anything to her. And she was like, "Seriously, Donnie, what is going on?" Like she was believing it, and at the end, I was like, "It's totally fake," which she felt dumb by because there's like zombie stuff. It's like this cannibalistic zombie stuff going on, but it just toes the line enough that people, that aren't thinking about it too hard actually might give into it. And that's the trick of the movie. So it's definitely cool in the fact that it's a standout. Have either of you seen Better Watch Out, the Christmas movie?
I started watching it and then I stopped watching it.
When did you stop watching it? Did you get to the turn?
When I wasn't liking it.
Did you get to the turn?
No.
You didn't get to the turn. Like there's a significant turn.
I watched a very odd movie about a boy trying to get in the pants of his babysitter.
Yeah.
And then spooky calls happened, and then his buddy popped in the house, and then a window was broken upstairs. And then I was like, I've been watching this for 45 minutes. What's happening?
So you turned it off before the turn. Yeah. Do you guys like funny games?
No.
Yeah, I think I saw that one.
If you like funny games,
where the two kids,
yeah,
the two guys
terrorize everybody. If you like funny games, Better Watch Out. It's very, very good. That annoying kid, what it basically turns into is he sets up a home invasion. The movie, Lucas, sets up like a normal home invasion movie. That's what Josh watched.
I'm watching the trailer right
That's
now.
what Josh watched. The first 30 minutes, you think there's a home invasion, they're running for their life. The turn happens about midway through the movie where you realize this was all a plot to scare her into liking him so he could get into her pants. And then it turns into he's literally freaking psycho and he carries the back end of this movie. It is insane the things that happen in the back end of this movie and how twisted his mind is and how he plots that all of this is going to happen. And I won't spoil the ending. It's not, again, not my top 3. Totally worth watching. Very, very good. I'm a little scared to say this because I think I might not have the date right. I didn't check them all, but I was thinking it would have showed up on Lucas's box office report. How about Happy Death Day?
Ugh.
Let me check the
It is that year.
I'm surprised that you don't like it, Josh. You typically like the satire kind of funny movies.
Unlikable characters.
Really? Okay.
She is the epitome of unlikable college girls. And I couldn't get past that. I watched most of it. And then I went back and tried to finish it. I just didn't like her character at all. And they try to redeem her. Like, I get it. Like, she's learning.
Yeah.
I like the premise for sure.
It's horror movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah. I think Freaky looks better in my head,
agree.
like the Vince Vaughn one. I just didn't like her. Maybe it's the actress.
It's definitely
too.
very twisty. I like the fact that it doesn't matter how many things she changes, it kind of still keeps happening. Like she doesn't control fate, so different things kind of keep happening, and I kind of like that. I think that's a neat. It doesn't feel as phoned in as the trailer and movie, blitz kind of made it seem. Okay, another couple here. Have you guys seen Prevenge?
Prevenge
is
what
about
Revenge.
Revenge is great too. Was that this year? That wasn't this year.
No, that's next.
Okay, yeah, Revenge is fantastic. Prevenge is an English movie, and it's kind of like, not like super clean and nice. It has like an old, I want to say filmic, but like just cheap might be a better word. It has a cheap presentation of a lady,
like Grindhouse.
Yeah, kind of grindhousey. Of a lady who thinks her baby is telling her to kill people, and it's funny. She goes out and kills people. It's not great, but it's worth a watch. It Comes at Night. A Cure for Wellness. Actually, not all that crazy, like all that separate from Get Out. There's like a lot of parallels in those. I like
The Cure for Wellness. More than a lot of people were saying. Like, they kind of were like, oh, this sucks. It's very it's almost like video gamey kind of. It has this like adventure video game feel,
kind of BioShocky.
With this like lore, like a whole world behind it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get into that, then you're probably not going to get into the movie.
The last one that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about is a movie called Tragedy Girls, which I watched on Hulu, which I think is still over there. It might be a Hulu original. That's a pretty cool movie, and essentially it has these two girls that want to become famous killers, like the folks in the movies. And it has like this whole thing where they're killing people, and they're trying to make it trend on social media, and then there's a turn, and they turn against each other. It's not great, it's not awful, but it's cool. It's cool both in premise, and it's like cool, like it's a cool movie to watch. Like the death scenes are cool, it's kind of funny, it's kind of satirical. I liked it. So, good year for me.
Nice.
Sorry to keep talking, but I really enjoyed this year. A lot of movies.
Oh, it's all right.
That's okay.
What about you guys?
Lucas, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, sure. I can go real quick. The Babysitter was one on Netflix that
I didn't even
really
know that was
enjoyed.
this year. That's a great movie.
I believe so. So kind of another 80s throwback type movie,
Sure.
but with a bit of a twist. You kind of think you know where it's going. But
Have you
then
guys
it
seen the
kinda-
new one yet?
No, they made. I didn't even know they were making a sequel, and I
It just
saw
came
it.
out.
It came out on Netflix a couple weeks ago. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that. It's kind of
Early
one of those
reviews
things
are
where
not
you're like,
great.
I was gonna say it's kind of one of those where you're like, did it need a sequel? I don't think it did. I mentioned this movie before, Creep.
Yeah, Creep 2.
Yeah, they made a sequel, and now see the thing is in Creep, the first Creep,
You see
you
Josh's
learn-
face light up when you said
Yeah.
it. Just
yes,
flashbacks to last year all over again.
in Creep, you find out the truth, right? That's the whole point. Is like you're trying to figure out, is this guy really as crazy as they say he is? So you know the answer. So when they made a sequel, it's kind of like, well, how is that really going to work? Because the whole first movie was, is he a killer or not? But since you know the answer to that question, it almost makes it even more creepy. Yeah, because creepy because you kind of expect things to happen, and it takes a while before it does get creepy. And they play with that whole idea of expectations, and so it was a really surprising sequel.
And the female lead's like you think that she's like in. She's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, you get this
Really
impression
dry.
that she's ready to do it, but it's only because she doesn't think any of it's real. She's
Yeah.
just like, all right, let's go with this. It's gonna get crazy. Did we talk about it that much other than in?
We didn't, other than
Yeah.
it just missed my list. I liked It Chapter 1 quite a bit. Saw it in theaters. So that was very good, actually. Really good.
Yeah.
I did not like the second one at all. And that might sour me on the first one when it came time to pick my list. I'm not going to lie to you. It may have, because the second one was a huge letdown. It's probably one of the biggest misses for me in a major horror release in a long time.
Yeah. It does kind of tarnish the first one a bit, but it was nice to have that. Talk about a hyped up movie. There's a reason why it made $300 million, and
it checks so many boxes. It's the Stranger Things kids, and it's very good, and it's good to the original, and it's a good remake, and the villain's good. You know, it checks a lot of boxes.
The scares are scary, but also very surreal, and I think that's really what sells Pennywise. Is like he just has this way about him. He doesn't just jump out of a like for a jump scare. He just, the way he moves when he does it, the way he like looks, the way his face is constantly deforming, and all these other weird things. It earns a place. I think it's worth a watch for sure.
The CG stuff also is not my favorite. And
there's
a
a lot of it.
Yeah, that's just me. Like that's The Conjuring 2 again. Like that kind of takes me out of it at times.
Yeah.
What was the other thing I was going to say? I just had a thought and it just completely left me. It just, yeah. So.
Okay.
I watched this movie, Raw.
Oh.
I ended up renting this movie because it has a great score, like a great Metacritic score or whatever. So I was like, let's just rent it and find out with the extra time we were afforded. It's okay. It's definitely one of the grossest movies I've seen in a while. I remember they were talking about The Perfection, like, oh, it's so gross that people had to turn it off. No, Raw is the gross movie.
I forgot about The Perfection. That was pretty good. I like that one.
It was all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of hype on that one. What's that?
Austin Williams film.
Yes. Yep.
What year was that?
Last year.
2018, 19. I was
Okay.
gonna say 18 or 19. So the premise is basically that a vegetarian gets her first taste of meat. The whole family is vegetarian, and bad things start happening once that happens.
With meat.
With meat.
Human
yes.
meat.
Human.
Yeah, snuff film.
Kinda.
There's a lot of weird parts about this movie too. Like I didn't realize so many people were becoming veterinarians. It's this whole like weird fraternity, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, maybe in France they have that going on.
No, it happens here. I know people that have went through it.
Does it? Oh yeah, I guess you would. Are all the hazings true? Like, do they?
I'll ask about the hazings.
Sorry to
You shouldn't.
segue. I remembered my
That's
thought.
all right. Yeah, sure.
Pennywise, right? We hadn't had an It movie for so long. I think a big part of It's coming back was just kind of like the cult following that It has taken for so long, and people being scared of clowns, and that being, you know, like a thing that kept coming up and up and up. So I think a lot of people are really ready for the second one. I think it played a lot into it. I think there's a lot of nostalgia and, you know, scare in like pop culture, you know, things with clowns and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of kids who grew up and were like, all right, let's remake that series that
I don't want to like just call the trendy card, but like I remember when I was growing up and somebody watched a lot of horror movies, talked to a lot of people. Like I don't remember nearly as many people being scared of clowns when I was little, but like everybody apparently is scared of clowns that my daughter knows. Like kids below me, like they're all scared of clowns. I'm like, where did this come from? And I even remember like Terrifier, like when that released, you know, and like that was also kind of like an homage, kind of brought that up. So I kind of felt like it was kind of catching a wave. And I think It kind of played into that a little.
I think it was actually from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Real quickly, yeah, so Raw, it was okay, but it just, I don't know, there was bits and pieces of it that just kind of gnawed away my pristine vision of it. And
away.
It's what?
You said bits and pieces that gnawed away.
Yeah, see?
Well, that's good. It's good.
Lastly, Mother.
I was just waiting for somebody to bring that up.
It's on my Dollar Cinema watch list, so I didn't want
huge miss.
I didn't want to watch it for the fun.
I appreciate them making the film, but it's a little, again, too on the nose. Like, I get it. It's about your art and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but I went up and down about, well, this is pretty cool, but at the same time, I was like,
I could see the artist and Lucas being completely troubled by this movie.
Yeah.
I could totally see him being like, you guys don't get it, and then also being like, but it's also pretentious.
Yeah. What the people are doing to our planet.
I'm completely on the this is pretentious side. I saw this movie in the theater, and I was like, I never want to see this ever again.
I did have to talk to my film friend about it, and I was like, how do we feel about this movie? You know, like, what are we doing here? So yeah, there you go.
It felt,
let me bring it down to, like Neanderthal movies.
I'm sorry, it felt like directly made to be like obscure. It's just like I don't have time.
Like they
for
tried
this.
too hard or something.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
Like, my girlfriend did a movie. What movie should I do? Okay, so I have the Bellco Experiment on my list.
Yeah.
Ooh, I forgot about that one.
Which is a fun. People get locked in an office building, told they have to kill people every certain amount of time, and if they don't do it, more people die. They find out they have like chips in their head that explode if they don't follow the rules.
Doritos.
And eventually, they find out that this is happening all over the world at these buildings, very similar to The Invitation's ending.
I like that one more than I thought I would, actually.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun, like Cabin in the Woodsy, like humor.
Exactly.
Yeah,
very violent.
I forgot all about that one, to be honest with you. It would have probably been on my list, or I would have brought it up. It didn't even make my short list here.
Gerald's Game made my short list because it's pretty good. It's not great, but there's definitely that one scene that I almost got sick watching because it's very well done. Carla Gugino is fantastic, and Bruce Greenwood plays her husband, estranged husband, or however you want to describe him, Gerald. I actually really enjoyed that. That was a tough watch, though. And then I'm just going. I think I only have one more. I watched The Black Coat's Daughter. Have you guys seen that?
Yep.
That was okay.
No.
It's
I
good.
didn't hate it. It stars. Well, it doesn't even star who I thought it was. I thought it was starring um, Julie Roberts' niece. What's her name? The girl
me,
who was
I
in
don't know.
American Horror Story. Why can't I think? Oh, I should have it right here, right? The Black Coat's Daughter. Why is it not in here? Um,
I got Emma Roberts.
Julia Roberts, thank you. The girl who beat up her boyfriend in real life. And it stars Kiernan Shipka from Sabrina on
Yep.
Netflix.
Mhm.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It's a really interesting story about this girl who is at a Catholic school, and her parents don't show up to pick her up, and she's been having these weird dreams, and then things happen, and you find out that everything you thought you knew was totally not what you thought you knew.
Isn't there like time jumping?
It's not. Yeah,
That's
it's
what I
like
remember.
you're seeing a flashback.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's not even super clear if that's what you're seeing.
Mm.
But they're leading you to believe that maybe Emma Roberts is someone else, and it kind of plays into
I
this.
think it's another A24 pick too.
It might be.
Josh loves
it's-
this.
Yeah, it is A24. Yeah.
If you want to know what Josh's genre of horror is, it's A24 horror.
Buy me A24 stuff and ship it to me.
I mean, hey, I'm right there with you. So
Yeah, actually, I actually enjoyed it. It wouldn't make top 5, but it was well acted, interesting.
Yeah,
But nothing to write home about.
it's good.
I had one more, and actually, you kind of jogged my memory with it that I think people might want to steer clear of. Actually, there was one that came up on lists called Thelma. It's on Hulu, and it has a decent review score, but I don't think it's horror enough to really pull.
Is it one of their monthly like seasonal original things?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think it was, because this is a foreign film, so
Okay.
I would be very surprised if it was. But basically, the idea is that this girl is going off to college. She seems very sheltered, and you find out that she is highly religious because of her family, and she also is struggling with her attraction to another woman, with being highly, very religious. That's obviously troublesome for her, to say the least. And every time she gets in these situations, like where she finds herself attracted to this girl because she goes out of her way to hang out with her and stuff, these things start happening. Like at one point, a bunch of birds start flying into the window, like attracted to her, and they all just like die. She's at an opera house or something like that, and they start fooling around, and the light fixture starts swinging around like it's going to drop Final Destination style or something, but it doesn't happen. So there's some supernatural elements to it, but I never really felt like it culminated into anything that wasn't that big of a deal. So maybe it is horror enough for some people, but just like the payoff wasn't really that great, and I kind of felt like the pacing of the entire movie got in its own way, and it just kind of felt like it plodded along. Just when you think things are kind of like ramping up, they go right back down, and then you're kind of there for another 15, 20 minutes and then ramp up again. And then you're like, oh, this is going to get good. But then it kind of just calms right back down again. So
93 on Rotten
Thelma.
Tomatoes.
I mean, if you're looking at it, like if I had found this not searching for horror movies, I might have had a different perspective on it.
I understand that. There's several movies that I've watched, not to call you out, Josh, both my wife enjoys. And I'd be like, but this isn't a horror movie.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, I totally agree.
It's not
I totally
scary.
agree.
Why are this is a waste of time. But
Horror movie, especially when you're in the mood for that,
Yeah.
that's one of those genres you're like, okay, well, this isn't, so never mind.
Yep. My wife thought that was my wife actually thought that was my issue with It Follows. Like it's just and I think it's a horror
Not
movie,
horror
but
enough.
it's more like haunting than scary. It's not very scary, I didn't think. But that is just me. Right. But yeah, we do this all the time. She loves like the Innkeepers or the haunting, you know, again, psychological, you know,
Yeah.
am I going crazy? She loves like any plot that puts a mom against their kids, you know. I tell her all the time, like, she's very typecasted. I guess I am too, though. She's like, yeah, if it doesn't have an axe going through somebody, you don't care. I'm like, well, kind of. I'm telling you, it helps.
We all have our weird things.
Right, like, it helps. I'm okay with that. It helps. Or she's like, I'm a sucker for, like, 80s synth music. I think that stuff goes perfectly with horror, like the genre. Like, anytime a movie starts off like that, I'm like, oh, yeah, like, this is going to be good.
Give me 90 more minutes of this.
Right. Southbound, man, I'm telling you. You've got to watch Southbound. That is a Lucas Rose movie.
Definitely for our wrap up, I will have watched it.
Very cool.
A retrospective or whatever you want to call it.
So safe to say our movie from this show is Get Out.
Yeah.
Get out.
If you argue with it, you're racist. So, like, you
I
can't.
thought that was the Crazy Rich
You
Asians
should have
one.
picked it as number one then. What was I thinking?
I mean,
picked
if
a
you.
movie with no black people in it for my number one movie.
We're not going to end the show like this again. Okay, I've got that down on the list, and I hope everybody has a safe and happy Halloween. Patrons are getting this early, so it's not quite Halloween yet. I think this goes out to the public on Halloween. So, patrons, I hope you are preparing to have a safe Halloween. Folks listening out there in the public feed, I hope you're enjoying Halloween and what is a strange, weird Halloween that I think we'll probably never forget. You know, like this would be one of those Halloweens. Be like, you remember that year that we didn't do Halloween? Like that was weird. You know?
Yeah.
Oof. So, anyways, my favorite day of the year. You guys already know that about me. I get so giddy and excited to decorate and do Halloween. Like it's kind of a bummer for me. It's weird. I tried for years to make Halloween a thing, like on my street. I actually went to neighbors, like encouraging them to decorate. It was like.
That's actually pretty cool, though.
We don't have kids like on my street. There's not a lot of, we have a lot of old people on my street. We have kids in the neighborhood. There's one bus stop on my street. So like during Halloween, guess who doesn't walk down the street? Nobody comes down here because there's nobody down here. So it's just me. And I kind of sit at the end of the street like a cul-de-sac. That's why I do the lights and make it real big. And that's why I have speakers and turn up the music. I'm almost about to put out signs. Be like, hey, turn
Yes,
here.
we're open.
Come down here. That's exactly what I have to do. And I don't know why. I think it's because I love horror movies, but I love handing out candy and trying to scare kids. And, you know, like it's fun. So anyway.
They have candy. Come over here.
You should get a van and just
Get a
drive it
van?
around.
I have a van.
Free candy machine.
Right, free candy. On the
I got a van. Dressed up as one of the strangers or Chucky. That works.
There you go. I got a van.
Anyway, folks out there, I hope you guys have enjoyed our little walk back of 2017, one horror movie at a time. We'll catch you next week as we do 2018. But until then, this is the end, friends.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi ho!